So those of you who might remember, I did this concert 2 years ago. It was COVID, and so there was only 24 people allowed in the sanctuary, and everybody was live streaming, and so it's nice to see a lot of people in the sanctuary for this concert. This is a 100% inspiration program. If you're not inspired, you can't do it. And so last year, I had a bit of a hard time. This year, in August, I got inspired. So I'm really excited to present this. I have two secret weapons here today. I have my trusted iPad with my Keynote program. We are now on versions 1.8.3, and it's going fairly well. The other secret weapon I have today is Drake Woods. And Drake is going to present the facts and figures of each of the pieces. He is very good with that. I have a bit of a hard time keeping it all in my head. Drake's family are members here at Christ Lutheran. Very great family. They've been very good to me. Thank you all so much. And Drake, good job today. So we're going to start with, "For unto us a child is born." This is from Handel's Messiah, but it is not the Handel's Messiah version, I can assure you. It is jazzy. It is composed by Mark Hayes, and is a bit of a modern take. Drake will tell you the rest.
For unto us a child is born is from Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. It's the third chorus in Handel's Messiah. The oratorio was composed in 1741 and contained 3 movements. For unto us a child is born is featured in the first movement that narrates the coming of the Christ child. Handel composed the work entirely in English, which was first performed in London.
despite being on version 1.8.3, it's not perfect yet. So, and when I was working on these pieces, my friend Brandon was watching how this program worked, and he made the very astute observation, it's very clever that it knows when to turn pages even when I'm playing the wrong notes. Very good, Brandon. So this next set of pieces, I'm going to do 3 carols, and I'm going to do them as a set, which means I'm not going to stop between for applause or anything. We're just going to move right through them in the interest of time. The first is the Carol of the Bells. The Carol of the Bells is a Ukrainian carol, and given the year that they have had in their needless invasion and devastation, I wanted to give them a moment of respect. They have contributed this piece, which is worldwide recognized piece, since 1916. I think Drake has the information on it. And I wanted to, it's a simple version. It's not complicated. It's not fancy-dancy. I just wanted to give a moment of respect for a culture that has had a really tough time. The second is going to be Angels from the Realms of Glory. The hymn tune Regent Square is one of my favorites. This is a classy little piece with a little Baroque twist that is kind of fun. It's by Mark Kellner. The third is the First Noel. The First Noel is really big. It is my favorite Christmas hymn, and this piece is very epic. I had actually thought about scratching it because it was so hard back in August, and Brandon said, no, you need a big one, so you're going to have to put it back in. No excuses. So it's here, and it starts a little dark, a little mysterious. It bleeds into We Three Kings. I'm not sure how that happened. And then when it comes back to the First Noel, it's big and glorious. So these are really 3 great pieces.
First, we have Carol of the Bells. It is a popular Ukrainian carol published in 1914 by Mykola Leontovich. It is composed of a 4-note pattern in 3/4 time, with the melody ringing out in the form of a carillon. The song told of a swallow flying into the home to declare that prosperity was coming and was used as a New Year's celebration. It was first performed in Kiev in 1916 and was introduced to Europe and North America during a choir tour in 1919. Western audiences were enamored by the piece and have refashioned it into many genres, from pop, rock, classical, and jazz. Angels from the Realms of Glory is a Christmas carol written by a Scottish poet, James Montgomery. The poem was composed in 1860 and became a church hymn until 1825. The lyrics were bounced around between various hymn tunes, including Regent Square, which was written by James Hamilton. The Regent Square hymn tune was adopted consistently throughout the United States, while the French hymn tune used for Angels We Have Heard on High is most commonly used in the United Kingdom. The First Noel is of Cornish origin and was published in 1823. Noel is French for Christmas. Historians have denoted the unique aspects of the
I may need just a recess for a minute after that, so that's kind of a lot. So we're going to have a little fun now. This is going to be the 12 Days of Christmas. If any of you remember from the first concert, the 12 Days of Christmas was really a lot of fun. I told you you could not sing with it, and people tried anyway. It changes key signatures about 6 times. It does not follow the traditional 12 Days of Christmas. Brandon asked, what does it make for a recital piece? How do you choose what makes it special for a recital? Number 1, it should be more than 3 pages. Number 2, you should not be able to sing with it. Number 3, you should not be able to sight read it. So a recital piece needs to be at least that. And so the 12 Days of Christmas meets all of that. And so the fact that I got it done once, I needed to do it again. So we're going to have a good time with the 12 Days of Christmas.
The 12 Days of Christmas is a famous example of a cumulative song, where certain items increase as the song progresses. The carol dates back to the late 18th century in the form of a poem. There were a number of melodies put to it over the years, but it wasn't until 1909 when Frederick Austin composed the tune that popularized the carol. Some interesting variations which have occurred between the earliest and the modern versions include "On" was not added until the 20th century, on the first day of Christmas. The original version stated that it was my mother who gave to me rather than my true love. Mothers aren't very romantic, are they? The original version claimed 4 collie birds, which are coal-black birds. The Americans either didn't know what collie birds were, or they didn't like the imagery, so it was changed to calling birds. Gold rings were in the original set, but were changed to golden in the American version. In 1900, one composer attempted to change maids a-milking to hounds a-running, and that didn't catch on at all.
Did anybody actually get to sing with it? Okay, that's what I thought. So we're going to go back now to a bit of a serious note. Lo, How a Rose Are Blooming is not one of our most popular carols you hear on the radio, sung by pop singers or anything. It is a very important piece in our liturgy, as we experience today in our church service. So this arrangement that I found is really very beautiful, really brings out the loveliness of it. Drake is going to share with us the verses that make Lo, How a Rose Are Blooming important, but I think you'll find this variation to be very elegant.
Lo, How a Rose Ere Blooming is a German Christmas carol, which was first published in 1599. The hymn used today was composed by German composer Michael Pretorius in 1609. The carol wasn't translated into English until 1894, when Theodore Baker, an American musicologist, moved to Leipzig, Germany, to study music and organ. The carol is not as widely known and has been popularized as many other carols, but it holds a unique place in liturgy. The symbolism in the poetry has sometimes been argued. The image of the rose stemming from the tree of Jesse has been thought of as the birth of Christ. Theologians, however, have considered that the rose is in fact the Virgin Mary, represented as a small flower who would bear the Christ child into the world. The verses go like this. Lo, how a rose you're blooming, from tender stem hath sprung, of Jesse's lineage coming, as men of old have sung. It came a floweret bright, amid the cold of winter, when half spent was the night. Isaiah 'twas foretold it, the rose I have in mind. With Mary we behold it, the Virgin Mother kind. To show God's love aright, she bore to men a Savior, when half spent was the night. O flower, whose fragrance tender with sweetness fills the air, dispel with glorious splendor the darkness everywhere. True man, yet very God, from sin and death now save us, and share our every load.
Raise your hands if you think that was pretty. So Christmas Eve has been a big tradition in a lot of people's churches and a lot of people's towns. When I was growing up in my church, First Baptist Church of Alta Vista, Christmas Eve seemed to be a really big time. Everybody came home from college, all the families came to visit, the grandparents, the kids. Church was sort of packed on Christmas Eve, and I guess maybe that was another time. You know, the choir loft was packed full of people. My dad was up there. Everybody was wearing their red robes, and it was a very reverent service. We had a choir director named Betty Cook, who she was a petite lady, but when she sang, it was the most amazing thing ever. And I think she never actually moved her mouth when she sang. I'm not quite sure how she did it, but she had the most incredible voice, and she sang "O Holy Night." And I'm quite sure most everybody who was at church on Christmas Eve was there to hear Betty Cook sing "O Holy Night." I mean, it was a staple. There was one occasion where we had hired a new minister, and he sang, and he came in and said, "I'll be singing "O Holy Night." Well, that was a one-time event, I can assure you. And so I don't think Betty Cook is able to sing that anymore. But as a respect out of her to her and all the music and relationship we've had with her over the years, I wanted to use a version of "O Holy Night" that I thought was befitting. I found some fancy versions. I found versions that changed keys and ran up and down the keyboard and, really showy. And I said, to me, that is not what "O Holy Night" is. I needed something a little more elegant. And I found it from a modern composer. And I should be able to tell you her name, but I can't recall it right this second. This is a really, really classy version, and I hope it means something to you and how you've spent your Christmas Eves over the years.
O Holy Night, or Cantique de Noël, by its French title, was a poem composed in 1843 at the request of the parish priest to celebrate the dedication of the cathedral's refurbished organ in Roquemar, France. The well-known poet, Placide Cappeau, was asked to compose something elegant and befitting. Later in that year, Adolphe Adam composed the accompaniment and set it to music. In 1855, it was translated into English and sparked huge interest in North America. In many French churches, O Holy Night is used at the beginning of the Midnight Mass. And I must say this is definitely a personal favorite of mine. I think it's one of the best Christmas carols.
So this rather marks the end of the program, and it's gone by kind of fast, hasn't it? So thank you all for coming. Those of you out on the live stream, I did ask Lori to use the skinny dial, so we'd all look a little thinner on the big screen televisions. So hopefully they accomplished that. Thank you, Drake. You've done an amazing job. Really appreciate your support here. And thank you for Christ Lutheran Church, because ever since I came here, I've spent my first year in San Antonio with nowhere to play and nowhere to use my music, and it was not one of my favorite years. And since I've had a church to play, they've welcomed everything I've brought to the table, and thank you, Pastor Leslie, Pastor H. This has been a great place for me. So thank you all very much. And for those of you who don't know, my friend Brandon has been sitting in my music room with me every night since August, going through these pieces and telling, not that one, yes, let's do this one, and no that one, and slow that down. And so I have had some major support. So thank you, Brandon. Really, really, very much inspiration. Now, and then I want to also tell you that my friends here, my small group, has put together a little reception out in the breezeway. And like my mom once said, there's no such thing as a good concert without a good reception. So let's all meet back there so we can say hello afterwards. And this last piece is Angels We've Heard on High. And yes, that is one of my top 5. This version is by the same composer that I used in the previous concert when he wrote Il est le divin enfant. So he's French. This is 19th century, late 1800s. It is very symphonic in nature. Never know quite where it's going to go next. Sounds like something maybe Mozart could have written. So we're going to end on a big note, and it's a great note. So thank you all very much, and I hope you have a great holiday and great Christmas and a Happy New Year. The program is not perfect for the old music, so I've got to back up.
Angels We Have Heard on High is derived from a French traditional carol called Les Anges dans nos campagnes, Angels in Our Countryside, which was first published in 1843. The most memorable part of the carol is the refrain based on the Latin phrase Gloria in excelsis Deo, or glory to God in the highest. The carol is recognized by worldwide audiences and concludes today's recital.
now's a good time to go to the reception.